kill the brain and you kill the ghoul.
Hello, boils and ghouls, and welcome to the Cold Dead Hard Horror Break, where we recap and review what we've watched, read, and collected over the past week. We're focusing on horror video games today, and I'm your host, Gigi. Joining me, we have Lena, Chris from Blackened, Kin of the Dead, and C from Wither. Thank you for tuning in, fellow horror heads, and welcome to the show. Okay, y'all, let's get into it.
With horror, I haven't been into much of these jump scary things like Outlast. I feel more of a story kind of girl, so one of my favorite horror games is Sally Face. I can talk about it later, but it's something I annoy people on the server way too much about. The other game I really loved was Obscure. It's a zombie type virus game. And I think the last one I want to mention is The Suffering, which is a PS2 game, a very old one, about a prison with strange monsters, kind of like Silent Hill, I'd say. Yeah. These are the three.
Is that the
I
one
really
with,
love
the
most.
brothers? I kind of vaguely remember that one.
Yeah, it's a real trip, and then you have this plot twist in the end. I'm not really talking about because honestly, spoilers.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, good for
It messed me up.
All right, what about you, Chris?
So, probably one of my favorite ones is honestly Until Dawn. It came out back in 2015, but it's a interactive drama horror game, and like they use real actors and everything. And they're the same company who made The Quarry, which came out in 2022. They're the same. It's the same company who made those, but it's super dope. There's not a whole lot of like quote unquote like button mashing or like having all these ridiculously insane controls. It's really just walking around, moving around, but the story itself is pretty wicked and ridiculous. And then another one, and it's not so much like a horror game. It's very creepy, and what makes it so creepy is the lack of information that it gives to you throughout the game. It's Inscription, and that came out in 2021. It's a card-based game, and it's like one of those 80-bit games, so like
I have
old school.
seen that. That looks creepy and fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a ridiculous amount of fun. It's also one of those games where it there's three stages of it, and during the first stage you get either one, two, or three lives, kind of just depending on how you strategically play. Um, and once you die, you start completely over. So you can be at the very last part of it, about to completely beat the first stage, able to get to the second stage, and if you die and fail, you have to start completely over again. Um, but it's wickedly creepy. I couldn't even really tell you what the game's about, because it's really insane. And the guy who created it, um, he's made other games like this before that I would like to check some of them out. And like it's I don't know. It's so impossible to explain, but it's one hell of a game. And those are probably the two most iconic that'll stick in my head, as far as just something that's just creepy and a good storyline. Is Until Dawn has just a great storyline.
All right, Ken, what video games have you been into lately?
Well, you guys know I'm not a huge gamer, but one that I got into a while back was the Evil Dead game. I'm a huge Evil Dead franchise fan, and that game was a lot of fun. I never really got into the online, which I think is like 90% of what that game is all about. I just kind of did the story missions, which are really kind of cool because they kind of play in and around the movies, like the plot lines from the movies. But it was cool, running around as Ash and kind of, in that world. So that was a lot of fun. But mostly I've been playing Dead War, Zombie Army 4. And that game has been a blast. Like, there's a lot to it, but like on the surface, it's just like a zombie shooter game, and super fun to play horde mode with friends, something that we do from time to time. Yeah, that game is fantastic. World War II setting, zombie apocalypse. There's a demon aspect to it. A lot of little Easter eggs. That one's been probably the one I've spent the most time on recently.
I think the dolls are one of my favorite parts of that game.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even realize that they were a thing until you had mentioned it, and now I'm like trying to hunt down these friggin' creepy dolls in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
There's hordes chasing after me. Yeah, it's so much fun.
And what about you, Steve? What games have you been playing lately?
So very much like Ken, gaming is a thing that I try and get into as much as I can, but it's just something that I don't frequently have a lot of time for. But I finished Dying Light 1 about 2 years ago or so. Played it only co-op, never played it by myself, and it was a really, really fun game. I've been looking forward to getting into Dying Light 2 here real soon. But the game that I've actually played the most recently, and I've actually thrown it up on the Discord servers a couple times, is this game called Inside. So it's on Xbox Core Game Pass. So there's only 25 games available at any given time, and typically they reserve like the Core Pass games, to be able to be playable like from start to finish in one sitting. That's kind of how they get around giving you a game for free, basically, I think. But no, the game. So I can't even explain to you what it's about because it gives you no context. There's no dialogue. There's no story. You just start as this little boy in the middle of the woods, and it's like a platform game. Like old school, left to right, kind of like Contra, back in the day, or Battle Frogs or whatever. But the
like a two-dimensional, like a linear, right on.
Yeah, but it's weird because it has three-dimensional aspects with kind of the way the camera can pan sometimes, and like some of the objects that you use. But like, yeah, it's exactly that. It's all 2D from left to right, and so you start out as this boy. Well, you're this boy this whole time, and you're just running through the woods, and you just gotta kind of figure it out as you're going because, like I said, there's zero context. So without giving too much away, right? Things can kill you, and the killing is brutal. It's pretty awesome, and it catches you off guard with the first couple times it happens. But it's just a super bizarre game, and what I found crazy about it because it's there's a lot of puzzles that you have to do, and it's kind of like the old school organizational puzzles, like where you have to put things in certain spots and click a button or like a lever that something else will go, and then because the things are in the right spot, it'll unlock a door or whatever. So that's kind of the style through it, and I mean it only took me. I think I did it over probably 3 or 4 days, doing like 30-minute, 40-minute sessions. So it was only like 2.5 hour long game, but it was a ton of fun. It was developed by I'm pretty sure they're an independent studio called Playdead, and they had created a game a couple years ago for the Xbox One called Limbo, and I haven't played that one yet, but it's like the same concept. It's a 2D adventure puzzle game.
Yeah, because as you're describing this, I was like, damn, this sounds like Limbo.
Yeah, no, it's I looked at some of the trailers on YouTube for Limbo when I was playing this game because I was trying to figure out who made it, because I think the way they made the game, it's simplistic enough that anybody could pick it up and be successful at it. It's not a super difficult game, but it's really immersive, and kind of the lack of detail that they give you in some aspects, but like the significant amount of detail they give you in others, I don't know how to really explain it, but it was a fantastic playthrough. I won't lie, I'm an old man now, and it gave me one or two little jumps here and there. So, I call that a win for any game. But
Sure.
yeah, that's it.
So thank you for that. But I do have to ask, what about Urban Dead?
You're absolutely right. So excuse any background noise you hear, but so Urban Dead, I've been playing Urban Dead, wow, since 2010 now. So what's that, 14 years almost? It's a text-based MMORPG, so it's a massive multiplayer online RPG game where you start out as either a survivor or you start out as a zombie. You can pick different starting classes that'll give you certain advantages at the beginning of the game. But at the end of the day, once you kind of level all the way up to max, every class that you would start, whether it's a military or civilian or a scientist, I think are the three. They all end up being the same. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But kind of it gives you a little bit of choice when you start the game. But it's a lot of fun. You only get 50 moves a day, so it is super low impact. It takes very minimal amount of time to play. And back in the day, so when I first started playing back in 2010, 2011, you had everything was on their wiki that they had, and most of the groups that kind of banded together, they had forums. So all communication was like it was like sending emails to each other, so it was very slow. So like coordination had to be very deliberate when way back in the day. But now all the groups have their own discords where everyone's logging on at the same time and conducting raids of buildings or taking over forts or malls or stadiums and all that type of stuff. But it's kind of like the game recycles itself. So if you die, you become a zombie. You can play as a zombie, where you're trying to tear down barricades and go inside buildings and eat people to kill them. But they have what they call revivification syringes, where if you stick somebody with it who doesn't have, a skill that makes it impossible, they come back alive and they're a survivor again and they can start moving around. So the game is really well balanced. It does like if there's too many zombies, all of the search rates start to favor the survivors just a little bit. And then if there's too many survivors, the search rates or like the hit rates will start to favor the zombies. So it keeps it really well balanced. But yeah, I've been playing that for a really long time. I've been trying to get you all into it for like 6 months now. Thanks.
I was just going to say, I think I'm a few behind my moves.
Hey, I attacked a zombie on it today.
No, yeah, you've been crushing it the last like 2 weeks now. So it's a lot of fun. And if anyone's looking to join, hop on in, find us on the Discord, and we'll start killing zombies and taking over malls together.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes for anybody listening.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Okay, thanks guys. For me, the games that I'm into, of course, I love horror games and science fiction ones. And also survival. The Long Dark is a game I continue to play over the over the years. And it's a small studio in Canada, and I definitely recommend it for anybody interested. And one of my favorite things about it is that in survival mode, it is permadeath. So it puts a certain level of tension in there. The other game that I beat this past weekend was Alan Wake 2, released by Remedy Studios. And there isn't enough good things I could say about that game. The environment and attention to detail blew me away from the moment I started the game. And then the character development, the way they did the commercials cracked me up, and I loved all the puzzles. I thought they were really well balanced, except that time they threw algebra at me. And then yesterday I downloaded Control, which is in the Alan Wake universe, but not an Alan Wake game. And I really wish I had played it before I had played Alan Wake 2, but I'm going to do another playthrough of it anyway, so I'll get to pick up all the stuff that I missed that were references because I've already seen a couple people where I'm like, oh, that's Darling. He was on the TV and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But anyways, I don't want to say too much. Then, of course, I'm playing Zombie Army for Dead War, which if you're a fan of like Sniper Elite, this is the zombie version of the game. And it is so fun. Trying to recruit people to beat it on Nightmare mode with me, which has not been the easiest thing. It's really fun. One of the things that I like that they did is they balanced it so Nightmare mode is just like amount of specials that you get, but you don't have to so you can still do it on like normal mode. You don't have to put it up to like super difficult zombies. And I kind of like that, so you can still have like hordes of the undead, but they're still taken down with headshots versus like, all right, I have to shoot this guy in the head 5 times to get him to go down.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm there yet, G. I wish that I was at that skill level, but I'm generally when me and G are playing horde mode, I'm running behind her.
I found myself doing that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Y'all, people are gonna think I'm good at games, which is like misleading. I just enjoy them. I'm not great at them. But no, I think Zombie Army 4, like I just play a lot.
We'll conquer it.
I do like all the little Easter eggs that they put in the game. Like the highest combat multiplier you can get is 666. How fun is that?
That's pretty
perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Right?
How fun is that?
It's so like in tune with that game though, right?
Mm-hmm. It's great.
Because it's zombies, but it's also kind of like demon zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the story's good. Like, go ahead.
It reminds me, like every time I turn it on, it reminds me, like I feel like I'm playing Dead Snow, but not during the wintertime, you know?
Right. Yeah, they do have that vibe.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I love Scheiser's story. Or Schweizer. The scientist guy, his whole arc is really cool. I mean, that's like a well thought out plot, right? Because he's one of like Hitler's scientists, and then he's like a good guy, and then he's also trying to figure it out. He like lets himself go to the dark side because he's trying to like undo his wrongs. So he gets taken over, and then you have to like bring him back again.
He kind of like reminds me, and this is gonna sound weird, right? But like an alternate reality, but like of like real scientists in World War II. Do you know what I mean? Like they're creating these machines under orders for, for the death machine, but like how some of them kind of like defect and question what they're doing, and there's this kind of like back and forth. Well, it's for our country, but like, is this the country we want to be, right? There's parts in that guy's character that kind of ring a little true with history, which I found pretty cool.
I think this game, it makes you appreciate multiplayer mode, at least for me.
Yeah, the horde mode is great.
Yeah.
The horde mode is one of my favorites. Although I have to say, holy crap, zombie sharks. They are not enough. We need more zombie sharks.
I think that's just true in general in movies and books. More zombie sharks.
That's super funny because I was just at the aquarium like 3 days ago and posted on X about I'm thankful there's no zombie sharks.
Oh, that's funny.
Completely unrelated to what you guys are talking about, but
can I split for 2 seconds and share a bit of info that I just learned about a zombie shark?
Yeah.
Everyone is familiar with the Felucci zombie movie, the unofficial Dawn of the Dead Part 2. Yeah, Zombie 2. Yeah, we all know what we're talking about, right? So does everyone familiar with the scene where the girl gets attacked by the shark? Well, the shark comes, and then the zombie comes, and then she kind of gets away, and then the zombie is attacking the shark.
Oh yeah, it's one of the greatest scenes ever.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that was a real guy. Like, he was a shark, not a shark trainer, but like he works with sharks. And that was a wild shark, that whole scene. The guy's dressed up like a zombie, holding his breath for that scene. They didn't have tanks. That was just like a guy who knows what he's doing with sharks, works like part-time as a stunt guy in a zombie costume underwater wrestling a real wild shark. Now, it happens to be a shark that he knows, like that he's kind of studied and spent time with. And they fed like like when they're doing stuff with sharks in the wild, they feed them like chum and stuff. So he made sure the shark was fully fed, and they gave it a sedative. But I thought that was wild, man. Like that was
wild.
that was a real like wild shark. You know
What
what I
a
mean?
psycho.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Is that
That's just
ethical? I don't know.
Of course it is.
I kind of feel
Work.
bad for the shark.
Yeah, well, he got fed, right?
That's true.
And you have to see.
For his food. Right, so he got to play around with his buddy, and they knew each other. It was like the guy said, he picked a shark that he knew really well. He's one that he kind of studies and whatever that's like local to that area. But I just thought that was wild, because like you think about that scene, and it is such like this classic wild scene, and just in my head I have to assume that it's cut in and out between a dummy shark and scenes of a live shark, but no, that whole thing was shot with a wild shark. I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool.
Anyway, sorry to pull us off topic.
No, I
That's Zombie 2 for anybody who I don't remember. Didn't hear if you said the name of it or not. But.
Yeah, the 2 was when they were trying to promote it as part 2 to Dawn of the Dead.
Sequel. Yeah.
So I think like that went actually to court and was
Oh, did
released.
it really?
Yeah. They fought that.
Huh.
But yeah, it was originally released Zombie 2, trying to capitalize on Dawn of the Dead.
I didn't know that.
So what else are we playing?
So I know C's gonna probably roll his eyes when he hears this, but the Walking Dead Telltale series games were the story in that with Clementine, who's like, the main character. It's this little girl that you follow throughout the story, and you see her get older and older. But it's the graphics themselves are like comic book graphics. And
I've never played them. I've seen images, and they do look cool. Is it kind of like a choose your own adventure, right?
Yeah.
yes, so all the decisions you make, and it's the Last of Us is the same way. All your decisions have a cause and effect, and it's the story is going to play out the way it is, but how some of the characters survive and your relationship with some of the characters can be altered based on your decisions on what you do, and that is probably one of the biggest games that like I was invested in emotionally, just with the characters. As silly as it's almost like when you sit there and you're watching a TV show that has like 10 seasons, and you get invested in these characters and you feel like you're a part of their world. The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, it felt like that. And they're such amazing games to play, because they have
when you get invested in the characters and their lives.
Yeah, because there's like, I think there's they call their like games like seasons, like a TV show, but I think there's like 4 or 5 seasons, and then there's 400 Days, which is like a DLC for it, and it's whole other thing. But and then they came out with a spin-off called Michonne, and it's just her story, but those I've played and beat over and over again. And I have my girlfriend playing them now, but they're super super awesome games.
Definitely.
Right on.
I mean, it really makes you feel for the characters. And the best
Yes.
thing is it doesn't really overlap with the series a lot. I mean, it does from time to time, but you don't have to watch the series to play the game. That's one thing I love the most about it.
Yeah, because doesn't it take more from like the actual comic books themselves?
Yeah, but I mean, it still has like the ranch and characters like Glenn appearing for like
Yeah.
5 to 10 minutes.
That's cool. That's like a cool synergy, right? To have elements from both the comic and the show like intertwined in the game. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
Lena.
there's nothing about the CDC in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Judy, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, weren't you and I also talking about a game earlier, Lethal Company? Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I was originally wanting to talk about Sally Face, but I can talk about both of them.
Yeah, no, please talk about both of them. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna start with Sally Face since I think it's not really a game many people know.
That was one of the first conversations I think you and I had on the Discord, Lena, was like in the game section. Was about, because it looks pretty wild.
Because it's such an underrated game. It's an indie game made by one person alone. Like, he did everything. He did the animations, he did the music, he did the whole game design, the whole marketing, everything. And it's crazy what he made. It's basically a game about a boy that wears a prosthetic mask after a kind of an accident that killed his mother, and he tries to solve a mystery around his whole living complex he lives in with his friends, and it turns out way more darker than you expect from like kids going on an adventure solving things. It gets really dark. Like it gets in the sense of there's a part of the game like during the end where you're like, no, I don't want to play. I really don't want to do that. I'm objecting. I really don't want to, because no right human would want to do what we all had to do in that scene. I'm not going to spoil it, of course, but it is emotional, it is dramatic, and the visuals are really disgusting. When you have this like childlike animation, I think. And yeah, it's a game I really love. I always tell people about because it also has a lot of puzzles in it. And in your first playthrough, you will most likely miss a lot of background story and a lot of things, and then you can go back and do 100% run, and you get the whole story, and it makes so much more sense. And I love these kind of games that hide these small puzzles that give you more background story stuff you can explore. That's really great.
Yeah, it sounds good. I gotta check that out.
I've always had a hard time with not games like that in particular, but the ones like where, if you played it straight through, you're only actually completing like 30 or 40% of the game, right? And then when you beat it, you go back and play. My approach to games, like as a kid, was always like every action that I do is going to be towards the end of beating the game. And it always frustrated me when like you'd go back and the game's finished and it's like, you see the percentage and it's 39% of, achievements unlocked. And it's like, well, geez, Louise.
Yeah.
I think it was just with the whole achievement thing. It was back in the day with Vice City, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. If you 100%ed their game and found like all these Easter eggs, and I believe it was if you mailed your memory card to Rockstar Studios and they checked your game save file, they would mail you a T-shirt that said "I 100%ed Grand Theft Auto Vice City."
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, because Grand Theft Auto Vice City was one of those. I know it's not horror, but it was just with the whole 100% thing. That was one of those first games that had like ridiculous amount of Easter eggs and ridiculous amounts of little things that you had to do. Like you couldn't just if you just played all the story missions, it made up for like 20 or 30% of the game. And it was like, well, no, you still have all this other shit to do in order to get that 100% completion.
Right.
I feel like you could classify Grand Theft as a type of horror depending on how you play the game.
Yeah, you're very it's
The
very
slasher
true.
movie.
Yeah, there's nothing like running around the streets with a bouquet of flowers and beating someone to death with them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the thing about achievement hunting. Like, I really need to get something out of this. If I spend a lot of hours into this, I really need some background story or something.
Right.
Give me a cutscene, like reward me for my time.
Oh my gosh, that's one of the things Alan Wake 2 did so well. All the little extras felt like you were really building the lore of the game, and it made me want to go and find all the little extra stuff.
Yeah,
And it threw
you know who
algebra
else
at
did
me, which is its own kind of
really?
horror.
There's algebra in the game?
Yes, one of the loot caches, to unlock it, you had to do math.
And it wasn't like middle school math either. Like it was. I mean, it was like, I would say like deep. I guess I don't know. I haven't been in high school in a very long time, but I would say definitely like 10th or 11th grade algebra. Like
Like it was legit algebra.
yeah, yeah, because you sent the picture, or yeah, you
Uh-huh.
sent the screenshot of the not equation, but
Yeah, the word
the
problem.
puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the word problem. Yeah. I got it wrong the first time, that's for sure. I think another guy on the Discord was throwing out guesses left and right until he finally got it.
Oh man.
I read it about halfway through, and then it started to hurt my head. So
Yeah, I would have I just would have hopped on Google. I would have been, you know what, someone else figure this out for me.
Well, I was sitting in the recliner playing, and my husband was at his desk, which is kind of nearish to me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, the game is making me do math." And he said, "What?" And he, tilted his head over and looked at me and said, "What is that?" I was like, "It's a word problem." And so we both bring out like our calculator apps on our phones, and we're like, "Wait, okay, so if B1 is 700 and B2 is blah blah blah."
Wow, no way.
Yeah.
No.
It took us a couple minutes, but we got it. I mean, it was like bringing back memories.
I mean, I guess that's like a good, it's a good age restriction that's built into the game. Like
Yep.
I don't know how far along it is, but outside of using the internet to find the answer, anybody, a normal child, I would say, under 14, 15 years old, probably isn't going to figure that out.
Yeah.
right.
What was funny is that like as I'm doing it, and we're reaching the math, I was like, "Oh wait, I'm still gonna I could still get attacked at any time. We need to figure this out." Because it doesn't pause.
So you're not like in some room where everything's all good?
No, you are out in the wilds, and there are monsters about.
Yeah, I talked to you, Gigi. It was, I don't know, I get maybe like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago about asking you about Alan Wake 2 because I got on the bandwagon very late and finally got the first one and played it and I thought it was awesome. I thought the first one was awesome. And I know my my big thing with games is like if I'm gonna spend $70, I don't want to beat a game in 15 hours. Like I want to be able to really sit back and get some grinding in.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think it
no,
depends.
I get
I
that.
see, yeah. For Alan Wake 2, I think you could beat it. I don't know what the actual gameplay link they have posted is, but I think you could probably beat it in 12 or 14 if you wanted to. Like if you're
Yeah,
not
just
yeah, if you're not going to go and explore and do any of the extra stuff, I think you could like hammer it through pretty quickly. But
yeah, this
but there's a lot of exploration in that game, and I to me that's half the fun. Is
yeah.
all the little extras and all the little puzzles they put in, because the puzzles are so much fun. There's not just the loot caches. They have so in the Alan Wake universe, which is the reason I went back and downloaded Control and I started playing that now, is there's something called the Federal Bureau of Control, which is kind of like Sculler and Moldy's department type of thing. Like they research the weird stuff, and they're
That's
they're
super
yeah
fun.
they're there.
Like, how old do you have to be to remember what Cool Mulder and Scully are? You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain cutoff where that's not even a thing anymore.
Oh, oh yeah.
X-Files will make them come back.
All right, but yeah. So they're there, and they have these puzzles set up to do different like research data points, and you get to interact with them, and that's a lot of fun too to me. But yes, I have aged myself.
Hey, listen, I don't want to know anyone who not only doesn't know what the X Files are, but hasn't seen every episode. If you don't meet that criteria, I can't talk to you.
Oh, damn. I might have a problem, guys.
Come on.
I haven't seen every episode, damn.
It's okay.
You know, it's funny when we, when me and my wife first moved into our condo, we didn't have cable or anything, and there's a big department store down the street. So we were over there just doing shopping for stuff for the condo, and we walked by I don't even know if they still have them, but the big like discount movie bins, and we found every season of X-Files for like $4 a season. And we're like, yep. And like the first couple of months that we lived here, that was every single night, dinner time, X-Files. And we rinsed through. And that was back when a season had like 20 some odd episodes. And
Good old days.
yeah, exactly. They were like hour long episodes, right? Yeah. And we burned through that like probably twice.
That's one of those ones that I'm looking forward to running through. I don't think I've ever seen every episode of every season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We did it again when Netflix had it up for like a year, and we're like, yep, let's just do it again. Now we don't have to switch out to right? And that show was killer. But I've done it again, and I pulled us off the games. I'll throw us back on track with one of the best. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think, did Gigi ever finish what she was saying? I'm so sorry.
Edit.
I don't know.
Well, you're saying that the group, the Control, was like the Scully and Mulder agency, and then
Oh, I did. Yes,
I took you off.
No, it's okay. And then there's the X-Files part. Yeah, and then the puzzles. It's good. I covered it.
My bad.
No, I'm laughing too much to hear most of it.
Oh my god.
I mean, another thing I can talk about a bit, because we talked about Until Dawn recently, like a few minutes ago, I think. I'm also a big Dead by Daylight fan, and some of us have seen the new Killer and everything that came out. Very creepy dude. I already posted my opinion about him in the channel. I'm very scared. But that's not the point, because at the Game Awards last year, they announced that Dead by Daylight, like the creators of Dead by Daylight, and Supermassive Games, so the people behind Until Dawn and The Quarry, are working on a game together, like on a story-based game together. And it seems pretty interesting. I already have it on my wish list. It's about a group of teenagers that explore a tunnel kind of thing. Like a quarry, not really a quarry, like a fabric, I'd say. And it's called The Casting of Frank Stone because there's a serial killer on the loose there. I'm really excited what they do with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
That
called The
sounds
Casting
really-
of Frank Stone.
Yeah, The Casting of Frank Stone.
Hmm.
That's what it's called.
Sounds cool.
Sounds cool. I'm really excited for it. I mean, it doesn't have a cast, I know. But you can't really top the Quarry cast for me. It was very good with David Arquette.
I love
And,
David Arquette. Isn't he great?
Ah, he's the best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's one of my favorite horror actors, probably.
Same here.
Oh,
He's
that's-
got a good face for it, right? Like he's very expressive.
Definitely. I mean, he's more like in these pessimistic roles now, but I still remember him as this innocent, small police officer, sheriff, whatever.
Right? Just trying to do a good day's work.
Yeah.
Wasn't he also a sheriff in shoot, what was that movie? Spider movie, not Arachnophobia.
Eric Attack.
Is that it?
called.
8-Legged
Yeah.
Freaks.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Eight-Legged
yes.
Freaks. That's it.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, he was the sheriff in
God,
that.
I haven't heard the
Cool.
name of that movie in a decade, in like 2 decades.
It's a fever dream. I honestly didn't know if it really existed until I searched it up. I thought I dreamt it.
Wait a second, that movie's real? That was
Yep.
a bad dream.
Like, wait, these giant spiders weren't just part of my imagination.
No.
Does that ever happen to you guys where you're like flipping through like horror movies or whatever on a streaming service and you watch something that your subconscious knows you watched as a kid but didn't really think it was real? And you're like, I know that. I feel like that happens to me often. Like I'll sometimes just rinse through like connected old horror movies and just let them play and whatever comes on next comes on. And I'm like, I know I've seen this. I thought this was a dream.
Yeah.
I think I had that with Blob, the original. So not
The
that
Blob?
remake. Yeah, not the remake they
Yeah.
did in the 80s. I watched the one they made in the 50s. I can't remember what it was, but I watched that in the 80s. And then a couple years later, when I probably watched it when I was like 7 or 8, and then a couple years later, I was trying to tell somebody about this movie that I saw, and they were like, "Yeah, that thing doesn't exist. What are you talking about?"
Oh,
And-
no.
That's
And-
funny.
All I could find was I was like, it had something to do with the Blob, and then I found the '88 film,
Right.
the newer version of it, and I was like, this isn't it. It's the concept, but this isn't it. And it took another couple years until like the internet came out for me to be able to track down what I had actually seen. But
What
yeah,
the hell did we do before the internet?
Right.
Arguments went on forever, and you can never prove anyone.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We have Mandela effects now, and we have the internet, right?
That's true.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That is true.
Well-
In some ways, it's kind of reverted back to, well, who the hell's right, right?
Well, have y'all heard the
It was-
latest thing? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Blackened.
No, I was gonna say it was a couple weeks ago when I was talking about the movie Satanic, and the very next day you guys watched it on over at your channel, and for when I saw it in 2016, and it was probably about a year ago, I was trying to explain to somebody that, like, to find that movie, and, like, I really couldn't remember anything about it other than I was like, look, it's like this couple, they're in California or something like that, and they're trying to see like all this creepy stuff, but like somehow there's a time loop involved and there's demons. And every person I was trying to explain it to, they're like, it's the most vague bullshit response to what to look for as far as a movie goes. And I was like, man, that's all I got to go on right now.
That's it. I'm gonna love it.
But what were you saying, Gigi? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mandela effect, most recently.
oh, so there's a new thing about the Fruit of the Loom Mandela effect. So if y'all are unfamiliar, there is a thing where supposedly Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia in its logo. And like, I'm one of those people that swears up and down that there was a freaking cornucopia on their logo. Like, I remember this.
I'm with you. I'm
okay.
So I read a huge article about it. Did you? So there was a girl. Like the story was a girl who was, she was having an argument with her mom or whatever about the cornucopia and the Fruit of the Loom. And they emailed Fruit of the Loom and was like, "Hey, did you ever have a logo with the cornucopia?" And they sent them, a picture of like all of their different logos over the last 60 years. And none of them had a cornucopia.
Right.
And then she ended up finding a pair of underwear with a Fruit of the Loom logo with the cornucopia on it.
Yes.
And then there was that huge, it was like a conspiracy theory that came up after it. It was Mandela effects are just the government's way of seeing how easily they can manipulate entire generations about minor details in information. Yeah.
I
mean, yeah,
that's
crazy.
exactly the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that's nuts to me. That's bonkers. Yeah.
Someone needs to call Alex Jones and get him on this.
Oh, Jesus.
I have my personal theory about Mandela effect. It's not more a theory. It's like the most probable thing why they happen.
Well, let's hear it.
I think I've seen a video about it, and this person was kind of like, well, we have these collective thoughts or memories about it because our brain just thinks it's the most logical thing that would be in this place. Like with the logo, like your brain is like, yeah, that's logical. That sounds like it can be. Or like the whole Monopoly Man thing with his
the monocle, yeah,
the monocle. It's like, yeah, it's a rich man, so of course, why shouldn't he have one? So we all just think he has one. And or the Pikachu thing, that he has this black stripe at the end of his tail. It's like, yeah, obviously it's his color scheme, so we all just collectively agreed on it because it makes sense, and I think that's pretty probable. Our brain is like made into.
Wait, they say Pikachu doesn't have a black stripe at the end of his tail?
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, you guys don't know what you're talking about.
Go Google it right now while we're talking. But no, super funny. So the reason I thought that the Monopoly guy had a monocle goes back to Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls.
Yeah. Right? That's exactly what I said.
He's in the house and they're at that huge bakery, and he punches that dude in the face and like wears him over his shoulders as like a throw rug of like a fox or whatever. But he's got the monocle in his face and he's like, he's moving his jaw like a puppet. He's like, do not pass go. Do not collect $100.
Ventura did us all day.
Oh,
yeah, that is exactly who I picture whenever I hear the Monopoly Man. It's a guy from Ace Ventura too.
I still love the Mandela effect. I can't get enough of watching these kind of things.
No shit, Pikachu doesn't.
I like the people. I like the people that are like playing like the cities are abandoned. Have you seen any of those like TikTok videos? They're basically like role playing like they're in like a back room or something.
Okay, I thought you meant like these people that are like in an apocalypse. I know there's a creator that is like, yeah, I'm from the future. I'm in an
Oh.
apocalypse. There's nothing around here. I'm
Yeah.
literally in an empty arcade. I think this one's very interesting. But you mean like the backroom community, basically?
Mhm. I love them.
Backrooms are really.
They're
Yeah.
invented. They're really inventive to me. Just like, oh, this is cool.
And they are so creative with it. I mean, it started with SCP, and then SCP kind of became this backroom thing. And now there's whole horror games about it. Me and my friends played one of them. It's like riddles and escaping and somehow collecting all the stuff you need. It's really hard. I get scared really easily when I have to run around empty hotel rooms, but it's still fun. They gave up. My friends gave up. I'm very sad. I don't have anyone to play with it.
Oh.
And I don't want to run around alone with shapeshifters all around. That's not fun.
It'd be really cool if Go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just gonna say, if you guys had to put a definitive top of the list of the best all-around horror game you've ever played, what would make the conversation?
I got
Bit of a
two.
tough one.
Oh, that's hard.
All right, go see, because you've got them loaded up,
Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut
right?
for PlayStation 1.
Mhm.
And the original Silent Hill. That game
Yeah.
still haunts me today.
Because you'll never
Can't
beat
argue
it.
with it.
Because I'll never beat it. I'll never beat it. I've come to terms with it. So I just watched the
I
movie.
feel like at
and-
this point it would almost be disappointing if you did ever give it a try and beat it. It's like, well, that's a chapter of life over.
The goddamn school thing. God, I hated that. Ah.
But yeah,
Oh
that.
my god, yeah.
I mean, from so I started out playing Resident Evil 2 was probably like the first real horror game I'd ever played, and I didn't even actually play it. Because we were too poor to have any gaming systems, so I would always go to my friend's house after school, and Resident Evil is a one-player game. At least way back in the day. They might have updated it nowadays.
Yeah, there's
So,
a
like-
couple of co-op ones now, but yeah, it was a controller pass back in the day.
Yeah, so I would literally, we'd get back from school, I'd go over to his house, and I'd sit on their couch or wherever we were at, and I would just watch him play this game for hours. It was like a movie for me. So I had beaten by proxy Resident Evil 2 like 100 times before I ever touched 1. But then I finally got a PlayStation 1. I bought Resident Evil 1, and that game, it's hard because I don't play a lot of games anymore, but I don't know if you can get, from my opinion and experiences, a more perfect video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to argue.
And then Silent Hill. I don't know. I'm gonna try it again probably when I'm 45, and we'll see what happens.
So
Hope
one
you-
I'll
I
throw
have
it
faith
in-
in you.
Totally have faith in you. I kind of hope that you don't, just so you have that goal forever.
Well, so every time I even think about it, I just watch the movie, and I'm like, I'm living vicariously through film to
Right.
beat the game.
Oh, and this is a good time to transition into the video game to movie adaptations. And there are tons of really good ones out there, including Dead Rising, which I think kind of flies under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
We watched that one not long ago, right? On the Wither server?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah, we did.
middle of last year, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. Did you ever watch it, Lena?
That was a good one.
No, but mainly because I'm still mad at Capcom. Because a fun fact, in Germany, Dead Rising 2, which is by far my favorite game of the series, is banned. Like, it's not banned. Like, I can't buy a German version of it. Like, in Steam or anything, I can't buy Dead Rising because Capcom decided not to sell rights to Germany to voice it and stuff because they were like, Well, we can leave it out. It's expensive enough. And
Wow.
so there
That's a
never was
bummer.
a German copy, and I got to play it because my brother had access to it from a friend, and I recently just bought an English kind of code, like an English game code. So I have the game and I have the DLC, and I'm very glad I have it. But I'm really mad at them for not releasing it in Germany.
I'll shake my fist at them with you. That's
But I've
terrible.
never watched the movie. I never did. I don't know why. It just flew by me, I think.
Speaking of game to film adaptations, just while we're on the topic, you're all aware of the original Resident Evil movie franchise and how it was supposed to be written.
I mean, is it really based on the games? If we're at it, it's not really.
So, hear me out. George Romero was contracted to write the script for the first movie.
Yeah.
And he wrote that script straight up, almost, I wouldn't say verbatim, right? But like event by event through Resident Evil 1, the game. And he submitted it, and they apparently had a couple other people writing scripts for it as well, and they ended up going with Paul Anderson's
Oh
movies.
no! I mean,
Really?
Yeah. Can you believe
back in the
that
day
shit?
was a rumor, but I never gave it much thought. That's super disappointing.
Like, who the fuck are you? Excuse me. Who are you to be like, oh, sorry, George Romero, Godfather of Zombies. We don't like
Zombies?
your script.
Yeah, take a back on this one, bro.
Just piss right off.
they're like, no.
Bunch of buttholes, man.
We
Good
need
Lord.
action. We need action. Here, you have Leon Kennedy in it. Be happy.
Now, how cool would it be for that to resurface and be like a rebranding to the film franchise?
Yeah.
That would be. So they actually made the newest Resident Evil. I don't know if you guys seen it. Raccoon City.
No, I haven't.
I think
So
I've got
it's-
it tagged. I don't think I've watched it though.
So like it is very true, like very true to. It's kind of a split between Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1 because it's like in the gaming world, like they happen kind of chronologically or like really close together. They do a really good job of kind of splitting that narrative, and they follow
Right.
the storylines really, really well. I think they're much lower budget. They didn't get nearly as much marketing and publicity. But if you haven't seen it yet, and you're a fan of Resident Evil 1 and 2, the originals, you need to watch that movie.
All right, it's moving up the list.
But sorry,
So,
top video games. Whoever's next.
So I'll bring this one up. I won't say that it's one of my personal favorite games, but it did super impress me. Was State of Decay. Now I remember back in the Left 4 Dead days, which is another game that we should talk about because Left 4 Dead I think was one of those game changer games. Excuse the pun. For multiplayer like zombie combat. But I remember talking to friends like back when we were obsessed with Left 4 Dead and thinking like how cool would it be to have like a sandbox style ultra realistic zombie apocalypse game where you have to like rank up your character and meet people and build colonies and all this stuff. Like how cool would that be, right? And I don't know how I never heard about it on launch. It was way after. I'm looking through games on the shelf and, discounted to $20 a State of Decay zombie game. I'm looking for, a good horror game for the weekend or whatever. So I pick it up and that's exactly what it was. Like, I don't think that a game has made me feel like I'm playing a character inside a zombie apocalypse more than State of Decay. I thought that was just a killer game, building squads, making, bases and stuff. all in the thick of the action, and you could be playing the same character and building up, for months, and if that character dies, they're just gone. You have to start off fresh as like a brand new survivor. And that it just super impressed me, I think. And I could be wrong, but I think it runs off the same engine as like the Grand Theft Auto games, but like set in that zombie apocalypse, which I thought was bonkers cool.
Have you played State of Decay 2 yet?
I haven't, but it's on the list, and I was thinking that would be a good game for like the communities to get into, right? See if we get a bunch of people in that and rock it together.
Oh, I'm down.
Yeah.
I
think we
beat
had
one.
mentioned it last year
Yeah.
at some point, and we were all like super excited and then just forgot about it.
Oh yeah, I mean that tends to happen, but yeah, that's a really really cool game. The mechanics of it are really awesome. I think you're. I mean, I didn't grow up on Grand Theft Auto, but I've played it here and there over the last couple decades, and it definitely has a lot of similarities to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're, run off of the same programming or engine or whatever. But yeah, they're super good games. Yeah.
And the world is so big. Like, that's a monster sandbox that they put you in.
Oh, yeah.
You go from rural areas to, like, city areas. That's very cool.
GG, you got two? Blackened, you got two?
Yeah, so, honestly, one of them I'm going to go with, and I think it was honestly just because it was my first kind of horror video game I did play, and it was the very first BioShock.
Oh, yeah, BioShock.
Yeah, and it was just creepy. It was creepy in the sense of you didn't really have a backstory. You're just some guy on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and then there's a lighthouse, and now you're going underwater, but you're a detective or what the hell? Like, there wasn't a whole lot, and of course the big daddies are these just monstrous, terrible machines that are just, sucking the souls, or they protect the children, but like it's been so long since I played it. Say again?
Oh, no, that game was like weird and wild and spooky, and it hit the notes, man, for sure. I remember playing that.
Yeah, and then honestly, the other one is gonna have to be Outlast 2.
Good one.
Because it's just that game creeped the hell out of me, and all you can do is run. You can't do anything in that game other than run and hide. And like, I remember I put it on I think nightmarish mode is, the hardest mode, and then there's obviously one before it, like hardcore. And I put it on that, and I got to a point where I ran out of flashlight batteries, and it was just pitch black, and I was like, yeah, I have to start the game over, because there's no way I can, like, I just kept dying over and over and over again. It was just completely lost. But yeah, that and Outlast 2, and anything that has to do with some sort of religious cult, doomsday, end of time stuff, and they're all out to kill you type thing. That's just creepy in itself.
Yeah, for sure. The whole, like, you can't do anything but run and hide instantly made me think of one of the games that scared me so much. I have to admit, I'm slightly embarrassed, but I've not beaten it. And that's Alien Isolation.
Oh, right.
Holy crap, that game scared the pants off me. Like, I was hiding from an alien at one point, and I was just like, I don't know how much longer I can play this. And then I was hiding from some of the androids, and I was just like, I am so anxious right now. Like,
a good one.
Yeah, it scared me. Like,
that game was like, it was a cool story too. Like Ripley's daughter going to look for her, but like it really captured that first movie, I think.
Mhm.
Like the anxiety and
Yes.
fear of the
And the
first Alien movie.
claustrophobia, like how
Yeah.
they managed that claustrophobic feeling, is
And I think that's
impressive.
something that gets lost in like space movies and space
Mhm.
games is like that, like no matter what's going on, it's even if everything is like perfect, you're still in space, right? Like
Right.
that in of itself is yeah, like you're surrounded by void death with just technology kind of keeping you alive. So that's already like super claustrophobic, kind of
Yeah.
terrifying. But
And
then you throw this giant monster in there.
yeah. And my second
Yeah, I
one
love
is
that game.
also in space, and that's Dead Space. Like the entire series. I've played all of them 2 and 3 times a piece. They're amazing
So good.
games. Like,
I want to pick up
Yeah.
the remastered first one.
oh, it's so do it. Do it like right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, me too.
It's so good.
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just got that like a month and a half ago, and it's God. It brings back. It literally brings back like those little glimpses of like, oh yeah, like I can remember the very first time I played this, where I was at, what I was doing, and I remember how scared I got.
Mhm.
Yeah, those games were bonkers. Good.
I do.
Is
Before
everyone
we,
familiar with the animated movies
yes,
that they did for Dead Space?
they're good.
They're
Yeah.
really freaking good, man. Like really good. Like even if you weren't a fan of the game or never played the game, those movies are really good.
I'm just gonna jump on what C started with, Silent Hill, but not the first one, the second one.
Mm.
I love the second one, and I love the whole message behind the second one, with this whole being like Silent Hill is a place where your worst nightmares manifest, and your guilt and everything comes to life and becomes these monsters. I really love that, and then I gotta go with something, and I know you guys still think it's very predictable of me, but not because I really love the games. It's because I love the story and the fandom behind it, and that's still the Five Nights at Freddy's series.
Oh
Right.
yeah, that's a good
Right.
one,
The
Lena.
games are very
I'm surprised it
simple.
took so long for that one to come up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the games are really simple, but damn the story and the books and the whole universe that was created around this one little game is crazy. It was
No, it's
like
a phenomenon for sure.
was like the start of indie developers finally having a chance again. With Blender being dragged against in the mud, and then Five Nights at Freddy's came around, and the movie last year being a huge thing. I really have a big heart for that franchise, even though it's not the best in the world, of course. I admit that. But
No, it's
more
super
like a
popular though.
favorite.
It's definitely.
Yeah, it's more like a favorite because it was my teenage years, my childhood, kind of.
So it's got that nostalgic factor too. I feel that way with
Exactly.
like the old Resident Evil too, right? Like the original Resident Evil. That there's like it's good. There's no denying it's good, but there's also this nostalgic factor of like playing with your friends and getting scared, and especially that first one. Like I guess the first two, passing the controllers back and forth. A buddy of mine actually, that we played Resident Evil together growing up. When the new one started to come out with that had the co-op like campaigns, it was like a phone call. Did you hear the new Resident Evil is going to be co-op? And it was like a night planned, right? Like, yeah, that nostalgic factor is strong. What would you say your number one is, Lena? You had to pick one game at the top, best all around.
I already talked about it. It's still Sally Face. I really.
Oh, that's your number one. Right on.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
that's my number one. It got me. From
Now I
start
definitely
to
have to
finish.
check it out. Yeah. Right on. GG, did you do yours?
I don't know. It's hard to
What was the
pick.
question?
What's my
Oh,
favorite horror
Yeah.
game? I don't
It
know.
doesn't even
It's
have to be your favorite, but just maybe like what's one that really stood out as like a good one. You know?
Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
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 That was
Yeah,
fun.
it was
And it was like repeat play, co-op with friends.
right.
So funny story behind it. My husband to this day has not let me live it down. But we were playing together.
Whatever it
and
is, it's a good one.
yeah, whatever. So whatever they're called, the like big tank zombie things that would just like charge on you and then pound you. I forget what
Yeah.
they called him in the games, but yeah. So we're waiting for I think the boat to come, and we're at the final point, and these waves of zombies are coming, and one of those gets a hold of his character and has him pinned in like a corner and is also pummeling him. And I'm not always smart, okay? And sometimes my ideas don't pan out. But I threw a Molotov on him,
You could have guessed that.
and there's friendly fire in that game.
Yeah.
So I also lit him on fire. And all I could
Oh,
say was,
man.
I'm helping.
Oh, man.
And yeah, his character did not make it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
You lit him on fire while he was being attacked by a zombie.
So every
Oh,
time
that's
we play
hilarious.
something that's co-op, he goes, "Is there friendly fire? And do you have explosives?"
So funny.
Oh, good. Sorry.
I can't think of a better place to end tonight off than with that story. That's fantastic.
Well, thanks everyone, and thank you, fellow listeners out there. We wish you all the best and stay spooky.
Sorry.